Stockholm, what is Stockholm? A Stockholm syndrome is a condition in which the captives, they develop an emotional attachment to their captors. That's what that's the Stockholm syndrome. Yes, the captives. First of all, they don't love these people because they are doing harm to them. They hate them. They are angry at them. They swear at them, because they will go through a gruesome moment. Yeah. But after some time, after a while, the victims begins to identify with the very system that enslaves them. These hostages, they begin to defend the very captor, and they protect the very captor. They trust the very captor, and sometimes they even love the very captor. So this is what we call the Stockholm syndrome. And if you remember, those who love movies, there is another series, a hot series, that I think that was aired, is it 3 or 4 years ago? That is called The Money Heist, where robbers, they robbed a certain bank was it in Spain? I think it was in Spain. They robbed that bank, and as they were robbing that bank of gold, no, it was money at first and then gold in the second. So there is another lady called Monica Gastambize. Yes, she was one of the hostages. But as time went by, that Monica developed affection with the captors, and at the end, she was one of the robbers. And even when they were, some were freed to go, Monica chose to go with the robbers. So this is what we call the Stockholm syndrome. And my brothers and sisters, when we go into the Bible, I want to believe that there is a certain section of people who suffered from this Stockholm syndrome. You might not know now, before I highlight it to you, but I want you to know that there is another section of people that suffered from this Stockholm syndrome, if I'm looking into their situation. Now, let's go to 2 Chronicles chapter 36, verse 20 and 21. The Bible says, "And those who escaped from the sword, he, Nebuchadnezzar, carried away to Babylon, where they became servants to him and his sons until the rule of the kingdom of Persia, to fulfill the word of the Lord by mouth of Jeremiah, to fulfill 70 years. We remember this story, my brothers and sisters. This is the darkest period in the history of the children of Israel. This is the darkest, even if you Google now to say the darkest period the Jews went through, this one comes first. The Babylonian siege, and then the Holocaust by Hitler, it can come second. So this is the darkest period that the children of Israel, that the Jews went through when they were annihilated by Nebuchadnezzar, when the Babylonians came and they took a siege of the city, they ransacked the city, they killed many people, and it says that those that remained, they took them captive to Babylon. And we remember the crew as they were in Babylon, when the people asked them to sing a song, they asked the question, how can we sing a song when you are in a foreign land? They were angry at these people. They didn't love what they went through. What the situation was not so palatable, because they went through a gruesome moment. The temple that they prided themselves in, a beautiful temple that was built by Solomon, it was brought to naught, and their homes were ransacked, people were killed, and it was not a very good situation. And we know that during that time when the siege was happening, there was another prophet who was there, and that prophet was Jeremiah. And Jeremiah, he warned them before the siege that the siege is coming. And when the siege had come, Jeremiah did not go with the captives to Babylon, but he remained in Jerusalem. And Jeremiah tells them that you will go there in Babylon. You will be enslaved for how many years? How many years? 70 years. Are we together? Yes. For 70 years. But after 70 years, you'll do what? You will come back. So that was the prophecy. That is 70 years you will be in Babylon or in the land of, But after 70 years, you will come back. Now, after 70 years, when you read Ezra chapter 1, I don't have time to read it now, but you can go and read it at home. When you read Ezra chapter 1, it was no longer the Babylonians that were ruling now, but it was the Medo-Persian kingdom. And who was ruling? It was Cyrus. And it says that under the favor shown them by Cyrus, nearly 50,000 of the children of the captivity had taken advantage of the decree permitting their return. These, however, in comparison with the hundreds of thousands scattered throughout the provinces of Medo-Persia, were but a mere remnant. You know, God steered into the heart of Cyrus after 70 years to say, Cyrus, make a decree and make all the Jews to go back where? To go back home. And Cyrus made a decree to say that I want all the Jews to go back to Jerusalem. I want all the Jews to go back to their homeland. And I am making this decree. I am going to help you even financially to rebuild your homes. I am going to help you financially to rebuild your temple. I am going to help you to travel along the way. I want all the Jews to do what? To go back. But it says here, because when you are reading Ezra chapter 1, the number that the people that came ready to go back to Jerusalem were about 46,000. 46,000 that were ready. And it says here, the Spirit of prophecy says, these were, however, in comparison with the hundreds of thousands scattered throughout the provinces of Medo-Persia, were but a mere remnant. So not everyone went back. Some, they said, no, we are remaining, we are not going back. Yes, some said, no, we are remaining. Who obeyed? When you read Prophets and Kings 5:98, says that the great majority of the Israelites had chosen to remain in the land of their exile rather than undergo the hardships of the return journey and the re-establishment of their desolated cities and homes. So the great majority of the Israelites, my brothers and sisters, had chosen to remain in the land of their exile. They chose to remain. Even after Cyrus had made a decree to say, every Jew now you can go back home. They chose to do what? They chose to remain. She continues to say, a score of more years passed by when a second decree, quite as favorable as the first, was issued, now by Darius Hastapes. You know, after Cyrus, then came Darius. And Darius made the same decree because Darius realized that the first crew that went to Jerusalem, they tried to rebuild the city, they tried to rebuild the temple, but they faced a lot of opposition. And the temple, the building project remained stagnant. And after so many years, now Darius is the ruler of the Medo-Persian kingdom. And Darius now repeats the same decree to say that he makes another favorable decree, just as Cyrus. And he also supports them to say, may all the Jews return to their homeland. I am going to support you financially. I am going to help you in everything that you want. I'm going to help you in everything that you need. So a score of more years passed by when a second decree, quite as favorable as the first, was issued by Darius Hastapes, the monarch then ruling. See Ezra chapter 6. Thus did God in mercy provide another opportunity for the Jews in Medo-Persia realm to return to the land of their forefathers. So God provided them again another opportunity to go back to the land of their forefathers. There was no reason whatsoever if you were in the Medo-Persian kingdom by then, when this decree and the proclamation was being made for all the Jews to return to their homeland. But my brothers and sisters, how did God's people respond? The Lord foresaw the troublous times that were going to come in the reign of Xerxes. And he not only wrote a change of feeling in the hearts of men in authority, but also inspired Zechariah. When you read Zechariah chapter 2, Zechariah, my brothers and sisters, pleads with the Jews. to say, let us return to our homeland. This is not our home. Zechariah, when you read the book of Ezra, Zechariah, he pleads with the Jews that let us do what? Let us return. So he pleaded. Yeah. So here we see God, first of all, speaking to Cyrus in 538 BC. And Cyrus authorized the Jews to return to to Jerusalem. Yes, and Cyrus also, do you know that Cyrus also returned over 5,000 temple vessels, gold temple vessels that were taken by Nebuchadnezzar. Cyrus returned them to return to Jerusalem. And again, Darius now, he reconfirms the decree by Cyrus and orders the temple construction at the cost of the king. And after that, we see Zechariah, my brothers and sisters, Zechariah telling the children of Israel to do what? To go back, pleading with them. Not only that, even when you will read the book of Ezra, Ezra also went and asked permission to the king to go back where? To go back to his homeland. And he also pleaded with the fellow Jews to say, brothers, let us go back to our home. Now, during the long years of their 70-year exile, God had given them many opportunities to return to their allegiance to him. Some had chosen to listen and to learn. Some had found salvation in the midst of affliction. Many of these were to be numbered among the remnant that should return. And it says that it was those whose spirit God had raised. Ezra 1 verse 5, it was those who God spirit had raised, who returned under the decree of Cyrus and Darius. So only those. But it says that, but God ceased not to plead with those who voluntarily remained in the land of their exile. God did not cease to plead with them, those who remained, to go back where? To go back to Jerusalem. Yes, and through manifold agencies, he made it possible for them also to return. The large number, however, of those who failed to respond to the decree of Cyrus remained unimpressible to later influences. And even when Zechariah warned them to flee from Babylon without further delay, they did not heed to the invitation. So this is the situation that we see, my brothers and sisters, that a few of the Jews, a remnant, the Spirit of prophecy says, a remnant only returned, but many they chose to remain in the land of the Medo-Persia. Why did they remain in the land of the Medo-Persian? God had opened opportunities for them to return. Yeah, but they chose to do what? They chose to remain. When they left Jerusalem under the siege of Nebuchadnezzar, they were angry and they longed to go back home. But after 70 years, a decree now is made for them to return. But many, my brothers and sisters, they stayed behind. You know, the Jews were no longer physically chained, but many were now emotionally attached to Persia. Persia was now so wonderful, so good, and so comfortable to them that they didn't want to sacrifice the journey to go back to their homeland. They had become comfortable in captivity. That's what we see here, that they had become so much comfortable in captivity. Do you know that you can be comfortable in captivity, that freedom becomes uncomfortable? So this is the situation that we find, that they were now so comfortable in captivity that freedom to them was now uncomfortable. They were now comfortable in Persia, that freedom to go back home was now uncomfortable. So many of them, they chose to remain. I want to believe that they had businesses now. I want to believe some they had families now that they had. I want to believe some they had students, children who were going to school, who were going to universities, and they thought that, now if I leave, it's going to disturb my children. My children are now at school. I'm doing this business and it's doing so well. I rather remain here in the Medo-Persia. So they were now comfortable in the captivity, that freedom becomes very much uncomfortable. I want to say to you, my brothers and sisters, this world is not our home. Sometimes the devil wants to make us comfortable here and to lose sight of where we are going. That we now love this world. Yeah, I have spoken to some other people who would say that if Jesus will just return, it will just delay for 10 or for even 20 or even 30 years. Why are they saying so? Because they're saying that we are still enjoying. I'm still building that house of mine. I'm still building that mansion of mine. I'm still working on that project of mine. And they don't care about the coming of Jesus Christ. So heaven to them is a far-fetched idea now. When you became a Christian, you wanted to go to heaven. You were longing for heaven. But right now, many Christians are no longer longing to go to heaven. Why? Because we are now so comfortable. We are now enjoying the pleasures of this world. And this is what we see among us, the Jews that remained. That they chose to say, no, you can go, we can go. But we are going to remain. And this is what we see, my brothers and sisters. The problem was that they stopped longing for Zion. It's not a problem to build. It's not a problem to have businesses. It's not a problem to have families. It's not a problem even to invest there in the Medo-Persian kingdom. But it's a problem when you stop longing for home. And this is the problem that we see here. So, Cyrus and Darius, they opened the door. That is Cyrus and Darius. But many years later, another king came. The king that was called Xerxes. Many years later, another king did what? Came. Under Cyrus and Darius, the Jews enjoyed unusual favor. Under those monarchs. They enjoyed. Yeah. And so even if the decree was made, they were not comfortable going back home. So, but another ruler who was not as Cyrus and Darius later came to be the ruler. And the things changed now. And we see that story in the book of Esther. Pastor Mzingwa. When you read the book of Esther, I want to ask a question. Because the book of Esther comes many, many years after the decree of Cyrus, the decree of Darius, after Ezra. Many, many years after. And these are the Jews who are in Medo-Persia. And my question, my brothers and sisters, is what were they doing in Medo-Persia? Esther, Mordecai, and the crew, what were they doing in Medo-Persia? Because a decree was made for them to return to their homeland. So the book of Esther, and do you know that when the Bible was being canonized, it was a struggle to include the book of Esther to be part of the canon of the Bible. Because some of the scholars, they were saying that, no, these people, they don't present a good example of the God that we worship. The book of Esther. Because the book of Esther, it presents backsliders who remained in Medo-Persia. These were backsliders, my brothers and sisters, who remained in Medo-Persia. And we will see even some of the actions of Mordecai and Esther, that these were backsliders who remained in Medo-Persia. So we see here the story of Esther. And this king now, Xerxes, because he was not a wise king. He was very much unstable. One day, this king now deposed the wife in a very unfamiliar way. Because do you know, some of us, we castigate Vashti, but Vashti was an honorable woman. Because Vashti refused. They wanted Vashti, the king was drunk and all these men of war were drunk, and they wanted Vashti to go parade herself naked in front of these men, and Vashti refused. And because of that refusal, because of that honor, she was deposed from being the queen. But Vashti was an honorable woman because she said, no, I cannot do that. You are making this decision because you are drunk. And the advisors of the king, they advised the king to say, this woman does not listen to you. Depose her now, according to our laws. And the king obliged, and Vashti was deposed. And after that, they call for a parade for another queen. And this is where we see Esther now coming into play. Mordecai comes to Esther and say, Esther, you are beautiful. Enter also into this contest and become a queen. You never know, sometimes you may win. And my brothers and sisters, when you read Esther chapter 2, verse 10 and verse 20, the Bible says Esther had not revealed her people or family, for Mordecai had charged her not to reveal. So, it also says in verse 20, now Esther had not revealed her family and her people just as Mordecai had charged her. So here we see that Esther was hiding her identity. She didn't want to be known and to be seen that she is a what? She is a Jew. Do you know, my brothers and sisters, that we have some undercover Christians? Christians who don't want to be known. In their workplace, they don't want to be known that they are Christians. Sometimes you can be shocked. Yeah, because some Christians, they don't want to be known that they are Christians. Some pastors here, they don't want to be known that they are pastors. We are hiding our identity. We don't want to be known. Even when you go online, we go to our Facebook pages, we go to our TikTok pages, we go to our X pages, we go to our Instagram pages. We are hiding our identity. We don't want to be known. We don't want to be known. You have a Facebook page. You put everything and anything. But the word of God, nothing. So this is the Esther that we see here, who was advised also by Mordecai that enter into this contest but hide your identity. And Esther, my brothers and sisters, did that. She hid her identity. She was not known that she is a Jew. Every day, morning and evening, moving in the streets, moving in the palace. But she was not known that she is a Jew. And that's what we do. We hide our identity. I want to urge us today that let us not hide our identity. Wherever you are, at school, let it be known that you are a Christian. Let it be known that you love the Lord. Let it be known that you are waiting for the soon return of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Wherever you are at work, let it be known, my brothers and sisters, that you are a Christian. Let it be known that you are a pastor. Let it be known. Let it be known where you stand. Don't hide your identity. Jesus wants us to be known because we are Christians. Yes, we are the light of the world. How do you hide your light under? You should let it open because you are the light. So this is what we see in Esther. Now, the other thing, my brothers and sisters, that I find here, yes, that shows that these were backsliders in the Medo-Persian kingdom. When you read Esther chapter 2, verse 12, it says that each young woman's turn came to go into the king Xerxes after she had completed 12 months preparation. Just imagine. They were taking 12 months to prepare to meet the king. What kind of a thing is that? Yeah. For thus were the days of their preparation apportioned, 6 months with oil, 6 months with the mirror, and 6 months with the perfumes and the preparations for beautifying the woman. So we see that in the world of the Medo-Persian kingdom, what was important to them was the externals, not the internals. It was not 6 months being taught, humility. It was not 6 months being taught, to be loving. It was not 6 months being taught, working on the character of the person. But it was 6 months working on externals. 6 months, 1 year. 6 months on externals, beautifying. 6 months on externals with all the different kinds of oils and perfumes. So in total, it was 1 year. 1 year. Yeah. Working on what? Working on externals. Trying to beautify yourself. Yeah, so, and this is what I see, my brothers and sisters. And in this world, the devil wants us to focus on the externals. Yeah, like our generation today, we want to focus on the externals. Yeah, we are obsessed today on the externals. We are obsessed today on our image. Obsessed about the filters. Yeah, you know, when you go to Facebook, when you go to TikTok and what. You know, there are filters, and the people are obsessed about that because it is covering the externals. We are obsessed about the brand. You know, the brand that I'm putting on, the suit that I'm putting on, you know, the bag, yeah, that I'm carrying, yeah. You know, there is another Mbinga in Zimbabwe, you know, who's obsessed. You know, you will say that this bag is worth 20,000 US dollar, just this bag. You know, we are obsessed with externals. We are obsessed with appearance. We are obsessed with the followers. How many followers do I have? Yeah. How many followers do I have? So we are obsessed with the followers. You see somebody worried to say, I have a few followers. Somebody worried to say, just a few people liked my status. Worried because we are obsessed about the externals. We are obsessed about the validation. But I want to say to you, my brothers and sisters, today, heaven is not impressed by cosmetics, but heaven is impressed with character. Yes. Solomon says, charm is deceitful, beauty is vain, but a woman that fears the Lord, that is character, shall always be praised. And that is what is important. But here, 1 year, they are working on the externals. And after the externals, you are now ready to go to the king. So, and Esther was part of this charade. And she's a Jew. Yes. And I want to say, my brothers and sisters, many of God's principles were compromised during the process. And I want to say to you and to me, be alert not to compromise God's principles. Because let's go into a word study now, just in brief. How long was Esther hidden? Before she was a king, before she was a queen, and now after she was a queen? How long was she hidden? You know, when you read Esther chapter 2, verse 16 and 3:77, it will tell you that from the 10th of the 7th year till the 1st of the 12th year, that is 5 years. Esther was not known that she is a Jew. And my brothers and sisters, how does a faithful Jew or an Adventist live? Can you live for 5 years as a Jew without being known that you are a Jew? When the first meal is offered in a pagan land, you can tell that this is a Jew. Like Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. When the first meal was offered, they said no. Are we together, my brothers and sisters? Yes, because the meal in a pagan environment, it will be full of these other things that are filthy according to the Jews. But Esther was hidden for how many years? For 5 years. When Friday evening come, you can tell that this is a Jew. When a marriage is to be considered, you can tell that this is a Jew, this is a Christian. But we don't do marriages according to the heathens like this that they were doing. Yes, that you should prepare yourself and then you enter into the bosom of the king. You stay there with the king for I don't know how many days. Whatever he does to you, it's according to him. Then after that, if he says he wants you, that's it. If he says no, you go, but you are already done away with. Is that how Jews are married, my brothers and sisters? No. Yes. So this is where we see the prophet of God saying that, but God ceased not to plead with those who voluntarily remained. Yes, but they did not heed. So these are the pointers of backsliders who had remained in Medo-Persia. I want to believe, my brothers and sisters, that those principled men and women who loved the Lord, who were longing for Zion, after the 70 years after the decree, they went back to Jerusalem. But the backsliders now, who now loved the life of Persia, who no longer longed for for Jerusalem. They didn't care. Yeah. The longing was no longer there. The passion was no longer there. The enthuse was no longer there. It was no longer there. And they chose to remain in the land of the Medo-Persia. They chose to remain in the land of the Medo-Persia. So we see here compromising. And I want to say to you, beware of gradual compromise. Compromise rarely happens suddenly. Nobody wakes up saying that I am planning to backslide. No. But it happens gradually. One neglected prayer. Yes. One tolerated sin. One compromised conviction. One worldly appetite preserved too long, little by little. That's how people backslide. And we see that in the life of Esther and the crew. But now, this is what happens now. After all that, Esther is a queen. A crisis came, my brothers and sisters, unannounced to all the Jews in the Medo-Persian kingdom. A crisis came as they were busy with their businesses, as they were busy with their day-to-day lives, as they were busy with all their activities there in the Medo-Persian kingdom, as they were busy with everything, my brothers and sisters. A royal decree was ordered. A royal decree was ordered, ordering the extermination of all the Jews in the Medo-Persian Empire. In the 127 provinces of the Medo-Persian Empire, the decree was saying every Jew should die. All of a sudden, one day, I follow the events in South Africa there. People who are running their businesses, people who are running their homes. Yes, just this last week, 300 people were taken to Ghana, and 4 more are going to follow. Because it just happened suddenly. The South Africans waking up to say, all foreigners, may you please go. And this is what happened here. It just happened. It just happened. And my brothers and sisters, I want to say to you, when you read Esther chapter 4, verse 16, this is where Esther now comes. Mordecai went to Esther and told Esther, this is what is happening. And don't think you will be spared because you are in the palace. You are also a Jew. Remember that? And then Esther says, go gather all the Jews who are present in Shushan and fast for me. Neither eat nor drink for 3 days, night or day. My maids also will fast likewise. My brothers and sisters, this is the turning point of Esther. Yes, and it comes after a crisis. A death decree is issued. And suddenly Esther realizes now that compromise cannot save her. She realizes now that compromising in whatever standard, now it cannot save me. She realizes now that my proximity to the king cannot save me. She realizes that my connections, my brothers and sisters, cannot save me. She realizes that my position as the queen cannot save me. She realizes that nothing can save me, but I need the Lord. Only God can save us from this situation. She realizes that. When she entered into a beauty contest to become the queen, there was no praying and fasting. There was no praying and fasting because many of God's principles were being broken. But now when she is in a crisis, she says, please pray for me and fast for me before I go and see the king. She realized that nothing can save me. I need the Lord. My brothers and sisters, I'm saying to you, be willing to come to God and be redeemed. Just like Esther and crew, be willing to come to God and be what? And be redeemed. Be willing to come to God and be redeemed. And the greatest revelation that I find here in the book of Esther is that God preserved a people who should not have been in Persia at the first place. But he preserved them. They ignored opportunities to live. They ignored the prophetic warnings. They ignored the spiritual warnings. Yet God still pursued them. Not because compromise was acceptable, But because grace is persistent, this is where we see in the story of Esther that the grace of God is persistent. Somebody said, if you go 1,000 steps away from God, you only need to take one step back. Why? Because he has been following you all the way. And this is what we see in the book of Esther. They took 1,000 steps away from God and compromised many of God's principles. But when they needed to come back, Esther only said, pray and fast for me. And we see God coming through for his children, my brothers and sisters. They were supposed to be killed. They were supposed, every Jew, the decree was made. You know, a decree and a proclamation, my brothers and sisters, you cannot change it. Yes, you cannot change it willy-nilly. The decree was made, signed by the king, that every Jew should die. And they were all going to die. They were all going to die. But God came through for them. Yes, God came through for them. God came through for these people. These compromised people. God came through for them. And this is the only place where we see the action of God, not the mention of his name. You know, the book of Esther, the whole book of Esther, there is no mention of the word of the name of God. There is no mention of the name of God. And that's the other reason scholars were saying this book should not be included in the canon. Yeah, you know, the hardline scholars, it should not be included. There is no mention of the name of God. But one scholar said, yes, there is no mention of the name of God, but we see the action of God. We see the action. God coming through for his penitent people. God coming through for his children. And my brothers and sisters, you might be still functioning today, but spiritually you are dry. You might be attending church, but you are losing the passion. You are losing the longing. You know, in this part of the world where we are, it's very easy to lose the passion. It's very easy to lose the longing. So many things that people are doing, you know, going to school, going to work, it's very easy for people to lose the passion. Yeah, we might be still singing hymns here and there, but we are carrying a compromise. Yes. Still appearing religious, but inwardly we know that we are exhausted. Just like Esther and crew. Just like Mordecai and crew. But I want to tell you today that the good news is that even when Esther and the crew forgot about God, he never forgot them. Yes. His name might have been absent. You might take the book of Esther today, you try to look for the name of God, absent. But the grace of God is evident in the book of Esther. And that is the reason why I love the book of Esther. Because the grace of God is evident in that book. In that book. And I want to say to you, my brothers and sisters, the book of Esther, it teaches us that God not only works with the faithful people, but God also works with broken people. God also works with the compromised people. You know, we have faithful people like Daniel and crew. They were faithful people. As they arrived in the Babylon, they said, we are not going to do this. You know, when the idol was erected for them to worship the idol, they said, we are not going to bow down. My brothers, decree was made. The binding finance is there. But they say, we are not going to bow down. Daniel and his friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, we are not going to bow down. Daniel, an opportunity here. Yes, but Daniel refuses. Yeah. To say, you can throw me in the lion's den. I am not going to compromise. God was working with Daniel. God was working with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And the same God who worked with Daniel, who worked with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, is the same God who worked with Esther, Mordecai, and the Jews who remained in the Medo-Persian kingdom, even after so many opportunities were given for them to return to their homeland. But they chose luxury. They chose comfort. They chose to remain there. And this is the God that we serve, my brothers and sisters. And as we come to the conclusion, when you read Ezekiel 37, verse 21 and 23, thus says the Lord, for I will save them from all their sinful backsliding, and I will cleanse them. They will be my people, and I will be their God. And we see God saving the Jews who had backslidden, saving them from their sin and saving them from their backsliding. And I love the song. Yes, we are going to sing it as we close. Redeemed, how I love to proclaim it. Redeemed by the blood of the Lamb, redeemed through his infinite mercy. Esther and crew, they were redeemed through the infinite mercy of God. His child, forever I am. Redeemed, redeemed. How I love to proclaim it. My brothers and sisters, come to God and be redeemed. It doesn't matter how far you have gone away from God, you only need to take one step back to him. Why? Because he has been following you all through the way. You might be scattered in Medo-Persia there, enjoying the life of Medo-Persia, but God is knocking in your heart to say, my daughter, to say, my son, you are still my child. I love you and I want you in my kingdom. God is willing to save you today. We are going to sing the song as we close, Redeemed. How I love to proclaim it. We can stand on our feet. Thank you.